Hi, this is Kenny Harper, and this is Experts of Influence, where we interview the best experts around the world so they can share their expertise with you. And today we are talking with an amazing rock star professional, Johnathan Milligan. I had the opportunity to meet Johnathan a couple years back, and this guy is on fire. He's really making things happen, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. In a moment, I'm going to ask Johnathan to share his story. I'm going to ask him to share some of the challenges he's faced so you can overcome them. I'm going to also ask if he can share some expertise and some things that you can do to include in your ascension as you look to raise your influence, and see if he has any resources that he'll be able to share with us. Let me start by giving him a proper introduction. Johnathan Milligan is an author, blogger, and speaker, and online business coach. He has spent the last decade consulting, guiding, and directing entrepreneurs on how to pursue meaningful work. Now, since 2009, Johnathan has been building a portable lifestyle business through blogging. Today, he teaches others the roadmap to doing the same thing for themselves. His two primary blogs are jonathanmilligan.com and bloggingyourpassion.com. Welcome, Johnathan Milligan. Johnathan, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Kenny, so glad to be here and excited to dive into our discussion today.
Excellent. Well, first things first, you are a rockstar professional and you're an expert of influence. And I would like for everyone to kind of get a little bit of background, how you got started. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your story of, how you got started, how did you aspire and start getting in your career and elevating as an influencer?
So, Kenny, right out of college, I started as a high school teacher and basketball coach. That's where I got my start. And along the way, I thought that was going to be what I did. Both my parents were educators. They were teachers. So just following the family tradition. And I love the teaching and I love the connecting with students and learning. But for me, my personality, the four walls of the classroom were way too confining for me. I wanted a little bit more freedom. I had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I wanted to take my passion for teaching and helping others progress in life and do it in a different format. I didn't know how, what, along the way. I actually stopped teaching and didn't really know what I was going to do. I had like 3 months left to salary. I ended up actually falling into a entrepreneurial startup, which was an executive search firm. Didn't really know much about it, but I dove into it, worked in that field for 7 years, primarily in the Jacksonville, Florida area, helping people, executives, mid-level to high-level executives find better opportunities, job opportunities. And did that on 100% commission. So I truly cut my teeth on what it was like to be an entrepreneur, even though I was in an organization. But even still then, I thought, man, while I'm helping people find better work opportunities, there's a lot of people I'm seeing on a weekly basis that I'm not helping. And I saw a blog, and this was back in 2009, as an opportunity for me to share my expertise in the career transition arena through a blog. And so I just started sharing, started writing down my information. And what I found was there was a whole world out there. I should have known when you put a blog out there, the whole world's going to be able to view it. But I started hearing from people in New York and Australia and California and asking for advice. And I thought, man, there's an opportunity here, I think, to monetize this blog. And so over that journey, it took me a little over 2.5 years to finally really start to figure it out. But I was able to build it to full-time income and actually step away from the executive recruiting role that I was in.
Really impressive. I can't tell you how many people that I've met through my career that have started blogs. And a lot of the times, that's all they do. They start the blog, right? Maybe they write the first 4 or 5 posts and they're on fire. As soon as they get that blog off the ground, they're telling everybody about it. And then it typically doesn't go anywhere. Some other people I know, they're keeping consistent with the blog. They're doing it on a regular basis, but they're not getting the traction. They're not getting much from it. They just, where am I putting my time? Why is this working? a small percentage of people I know are getting leads and business from their business, and only a very small percentage, very small, and you're one of them, have I seen where people have actually taken their blog and turned it into a business. So that's really impressive, and salutes to you for the commitment, because I know it does take a lot of work to get it off the ground and breathe life into it and commit to keeping it going. Question for you. So one of the questions I have is, how do you get engagement with a blog? How do you get past that hurdle of, creating this blog, maybe doing it even on a consistent basis, but then get it to the point where you're building that community and you're getting that engagement and working towards being able to influence action?
Yeah. So that doesn't happen overnight. That is something that's going to come out of you being consistent. And I totally get where some people are, where they're like, they start a blog, they start doing things and they don't hear anything. And I call it the pre-profit stage. Like, we all go through this pre-profit stage of our blog where we're building it, we're putting things out there, and it's crickets. We're not getting a lot of feedback. We're not hearing much. It's kind of the journey, to be honest. It's the journey that you have to kind of find a way to be committed to and be consistent with. I always tell a funny little story of my son when he was much younger. We're in Florida. The playgrounds here at the schools, a lot of them are sand because it's just sands everywhere. And he would come home with sand in his shoes, come inside the house, pull off his shoes and dump sand all over the house. And my wife said, no, we got to figure out a solution for this. So we took a pail like you would take to the beach, a bucket, and stuck it in the garage. And we taught him every day when you get home from school, dump the sand out in your shoes. Well, I didn't think about it. A couple of months had passed. I walked by that bucket and took a double take. It was completely filled to the top with sand.
Wow.
And I instantly had this analogy of like, that's what like a blog is like. Like, we don't necessarily see it in a moment. We're dumping out a little bit of sand, but over time it becomes something. It becomes something grand if you can stay consistent with it. And it can produce leads for you on an ongoing basis. But as far as engagement, I think it boils back to, don't make your blog post about you and your expertise. Like, demonstrate your expertise. Don't showcase your expertise. And if your blog is about you, you're not going to get engagement. If your blog is about them and you're answering common questions that people are having and you're demonstrating your expertise, that's where you can begin to get engagement. And I think a great place to start is just common questions. What are the common questions people have? So for me, when I started my Career Coach blog, it was, how long should a resume be? Should I have a functional resume or a chronological resume? How do I hear back? What do I do if I've not heard anything back after a job interview? And answering those common questions builds that engagement because it's for other people. That's one way. And then the other way is building the email list, because you now have traffic you can control. So when I publish a post, I can instantly get thousands of people on that post, which then increases the engagement because they're going to share it on social media. Those are just a few ways, but concentrating on those primary ways will really help.
Awesome. Now, another thing I'd like to ask is, I know you do trainings, you have boot camps, you do workshops, you have a lot of different things you can offer. So I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you can do like a mile-high overview of somebody who's like, I want to create a blog and I want to turn it into a business, and just kind of the basic steps to walk through that process. If you could share kind of the key points, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So from a big picture perspective, I teach something called the hourglass funnel. And it's we all picture those hourglasses, those old-fashioned hourglasses where the grains of sand move from the top to the bottom and it's skinnier in the middle. And I use that as an analogy. Think about an hourglass with the top being removed, and the little grains of sand is your ideal audience, your traffic. And so what throws the sand into the hourglass is being present and connect. So that's the first point, is connect. How can you get out where your audience is and connect with them? Who has the audience already? Where are they already hanging out? and then go and hang out there and drive them to your blog. That's kind of essential step number one. There's different ways to do that, but that's number one. The top of the hourglass funnel at the very top is for your content. It is you, like I said before, demonstrating your expertise. Now, a blog has evolved since I started, and today it is all about, video, audio, and even text. So we can do a podcast, we can do videos on YouTube that we embed over in our blog post, or we can write blog posts. But demonstrating your expertise will be what attracts that audience to you. Now, the very, very center, the skinny part, is super, super important. This is where many people miss it. It's what I call the capture habit. So the capture habit is your ability to turn and convert people who are showing up into leads. One of my favorite ways to do that is to do a content upgrade. So if someone's coming to a specific article or blog post on your site, they're coming because they're already pre-interested in that topic. So why not give them some kind of a bonus content in exchange for an email address? And by doing that, you will see so many more email subscribers come as a result. And so an easy way is if somebody right now says, I have a blog, but it's just there. It's not really producing for me. Okay, so what are the top 4 or 5 web pages that people are visiting on your site? And then why don't you put something very, very specific that they would want? I'll give you a quick example. My JohnathanMilligan.com blog, where my original career coaching blog, I have a blog post about what to do after the interview if you've heard nothing. It is still the most trafficked post. It gets tons of Google traffic every single month. So what did I do? I just put a simple interview cheat sheet that people can get because they're in the midst of their job search. They need help with interviewing. And I get people every day that subscribe to that. And that's how I'm able to build it. That's the capture. And then the bottom of the funnel, Kenny, is where we can demonstrate our expertise through paid offerings. All right. So we have the connect habit at the top. We got the capture habit in the middle. And then in the bottom is where we can demonstrate our expertise. So that is how it flows. So as people pour into it, they get that free expertise and help. They get on your email list. Now you can build the relationship to your online courses, your events, your coaching, your books, your membership site. All of that flows in that direction. So hopefully that's a good picture that can help you understand how it works.
That was an awesome picture. And if you're watching this video, you definitely want to make sure that you're taking some notes and implement that idea. That's a great idea. I've done, lead generation, having some sort of freemium or offer on a page, and typically it's related to the topic, the general topic, but you're taking it a step further by making it relate to the blog post itself, which is really getting specific. And the more custom that you can make your offer towards your audience and what they're looking for, the more likely are they to take advantage of it. So that was a great tip. Thank you very much. So moving on, you're talking with a lot of different people from all over the world. Some of them are, making progress. Some of them are having challenges. I'd say a lot of people are having different challenges in different spots. So what are the typical challenges that one who's getting into this land might come into, and some ways that they might be able to overcome them?
Yeah, and this is important. So I think more than ever, it is focus and clarity, because there's so much that we could do. As influencers, as people who have a heart to want to reach people with our message, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And there's no necessarily right way. I believe there's a right way for you, using your unique strengths and abilities to communicate that. But I think it's focus and clarity, and being able to tap into what your unique strengths are and stay there and stay consistent is so super valuable and super important. And we might get into this a little bit later, but the way that I help my audience and those that follow me get that focus and clarity is I teach that the process has 4 levels. And Each level requires a different set of skills and a different focus and a different objective before you can move on. And what happens, Kenny, is we try to do all 4 levels at once. And then we become discouraged because we're being pulled in a million directions. We have too many plates spinning, and everything's going to come crashing down. We don't know how to manage it all. And we have constant distractions that are coming in the way because we're jumping here, there, and everywhere.
Amen, sir. Hallelujah. He's shown the light. I can relate. I tell people I'm a recovering ideaholic. So, I have the creative background. I like playing music, right? Mm-hmm. And I got into marketing. And when you get into marketing, you get paid to come up with creative ideas and solve problems and think of all these different things you could potentially do. And this trains your brain to think of things, which is great, but it comes with the challenge of then now you're thinking of all these different things you could do. And it can also become very distracting. Same thing with that smartphone, right? It's great to come connected, but it can be a detriment if it's too distracting. So that's a great point, Jonathan, about focus and clarity.
Yeah, and with that, Kenny, it's there's a great book called Deep Work by Cal Newport that I think every influencer should read. And it really helps us see that we need to have focused, blocked session time where we do our creative work. And I think that's so very important. He talks about in the book, the problem we have is called attention residue. And attention residue is where when we jump from task to task, we have leftover attention on something else and we're not able to fully focus. And if your whole day is described that way, you never get to doing the creative work, which is influencing, writing, speaking, coaching, putting your message out to the world. That's a problem. And so we have to work harder today to eliminate what we shouldn't be doing and focus on what we should.
I see that as a challenge with some who are very busy, and I know that I can be in this space sometimes where they say, I'm hustling, I'm doing all this hustling. But if you're doing too much hustling and not enough really focus, then you could just be hustling yourself, and that's going to burn you out eventually.
Yeah.
So I think that's really something to take to heart. If you've got a lot of things going on, you really got to take a step back and look at what progress are you really making towards your bold vision, and are you making significant progress, or are you just keeping busy and in action? And there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
One's moving you forward and one's keeping you busy. And it could seem like it's productive, but if it's not really taking you to where you want to go, then it could be the cost of opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So now I could ask you, who are some of your inspirations in the blog world, the online marketing world that you'd like to share?
So Yarrow Starrick, he's from Australia, entrepreneursjourney.com. He was actually the first influencer, I would say, that I started following back in 2008, who was talking about this blog thing. And buying one of his courses helped me to actually get my first blog set up. So I always got to go back to that because he's the one that made me get in this game in the first place. Number 2, I would say that was a critical point in my life was I was still kind of part-time, still trying to figure things out. And there's a guy who has a blog called Universe Today. It's a blog on his passion for the universe and stars and all of that. And he's got it's his makes full-time income with that blog, does an incredible job, lots of readers. And I remember him telling me early on the things that have helped me. He said, Jonathan, in this online business influence space, there's only 2 things you can take with you to the grave. Number 1 is your reputation, how you treat people and the values that you have. And number 2 is your email list. Like your email list can go with you no matter what. And it was so true because, during that time back when I blogged, Google search was the rage. I mean, everyone was talking about SEO. And then along, if anybody knows the journey, along came penguin, panda, and every kind of animal update that Google changed their algorithm. And it messed up a lot of people. But those who successfully built their email list were able to generate that. We've also seen this, Kenny, with people. Remember Vine? I mean, Vine was the rage. I remember my kids watching these little 7-second videos, and they even had these people called Viners that had millions of followers. And then out of nowhere, Twitter says, we're done with Vine. They shut it down. And some of these Viners were like spending money doing these documentaries about all they're doing with Vine. And they were blindsided. And if they didn't have an email list, I mean, they lost people unless they were on YouTube or somebody could find them somewhere else. And that's why an email list is traffic we can control. So that was a huge pivotal moment for me. And then the third one is Michael Hyatt. I love anything that Michael Hyatt does. He's just like a teacher first, value first type of person. So those are my big influences.
Super cool. You mentioned something, that you bought a course when you got started. And there's typically, I run into a lot of different people. There's the people out there that they're wanting to grow and they're looking for information and they're finding it, they're sourcing it, they're finding it. And then there's the people that can understand the value that they can have to purchase something that's put together in a system, in a package, how much time and money and energy they can save by investing in someone's knowledge that has taken it and put it into a system, as long as they're credible and they've have the proof to show it. So just wanted to give a hats off to the people that can appreciate that. And if you're watching and you haven't purchased a course or taken a training or something like that, and you're really wanting to have the results, I highly consider doing something of that nature, because ultimately you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And it can pay itself back so many times. If you're really committed and getting the results, go all in.
Yeah, definitely.
So are there any podcasts or books that you would like to suggest that would be great information on this topic? You did mention some influencers and some people that had some inspiration on you, but are there any podcasts or books that you'd like to suggest?
Yeah. So, as far as books, man, I read a book a week. I'm a huge learner. I love to learn, and that's where a lot of my ideas and content and different things can come from. I would say some of the more influential books I've read lately. One was Deep Work, like I mentioned before, by Cal Newport. I would say an awesome business book for people that are in this space is Profit First. I think it's Mike Michalowicz or something like that. His last name's really hard to spell, but if you put Profit First, you can check it out. And that really helped me to get organized from how am I going to manage my finances in this space. So that's been hugely helpful. I was actually even able to find a CPA who was a Profit First professional to help me set up the system. And you don't have to be like financially like a numbers guy or gal to get Profit First. It's a very simple system, but it'll help you divide up your income in the right kind of way to grow your business. So those are a couple books. The One Thing by Gary Keller is awesome. Essentialism by Greg McKeown, another must-have book for people in the influence space. I think will really help. Podcast, Michael Hyatt's podcast is always great. Lots of good information. I love Digital Marketers podcast, Perpetual Traffic, for people who want to look at Facebook ads or some other creative ways to find your audience. I think they've got excellent content. And then if you need some inspiration or just help, because, we as influencers need inspiration on a daily basis, because we are the person who's putting out the creative content, and we have to be at the right place inwardly and physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And so I love listening to Brendan Burchard's, especially his new show that he's got on his podcast as well. So those are some books and podcasts that I like.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really awesome. All right, so we're coming on our time and got a couple more questions. What is one takeaway that you'd like to share with the Experts of Influence audience? You've shared many great ideas and insights. But if you had one takeaway, one thing that people should consider and put into action, what would that be?
I think I have found and discovered, after a while now, working with people who have a message they want to get out there, that one of the biggest roadblocks, one of the biggest things that hold them back is their self. That's what holds them back. And, they can couch it sometimes with, I don't have time, or I don't know how to do this technical stuff, things like that. And that might be a piece of it. I'm not saying it's not there totally, but what often holds them back is themselves. Like, they have the feelings of not being good enough. There's already people out there talking about what I'm talking about. There's already blogs and websites and podcasts and videos that are so much more well done than I could ever do it. There's people out there who can speak better than me. And yet they have a heart and passion to want to help people. So what it requires, Kenny, is present courage. Like, every influencer you admire once blogged in obscurity. They spoke and with not much applause. They put a podcast out there and didn't get many downloads. I mean, we've all done those things, but every person you admire, in fact, we could look at your story, Kenny, and we could look at other people. You go back in time to a moment where they had present courage. And I think for a lot of people, the people you most want to help are on the other side of your courage. Like you have to get out there and have present courage in the moment in order for those people to get the help they need. And that would be the thing that I want to pass along, the takeaway more than anything, is to have present courage now so people can get the help in the future that they need and that you want to help them with.
That's awesome and very, very powerful and true. I know for a while earlier on in my career, I had that belief, there's already so many other people talking, there's already so many other speakers, but I've come to understand that they can't be everyone's solution.
Yep. And
you have your own unique personality, point of view, way of putting that information out there. And some people are going to relate to you more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because you're not as high on the chain, maybe because you're just getting started. They'll take your message further.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think about that. And now when I'm considering continuing to climb or do things, I get this concept of the positive warrior. There's people out there that you can help, and if you don't put your message out there, then they may miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the 10th time they heard that same message, but that was the 10th time they needed in order to have that growth and transformation.
Very true.
Thank you for pointing that out, because that is a great takeaway, and I can see that can be probably one of the biggest hinderers among people being able to succeed as themselves. Very well spoken, sir. And lastly, Johnathan Milligan, expert of influence. Do you have anything that you would like to share? Any solutions or products, workshops, websites, anything that you'd like to share with the
Sure.
experts of influence community?
Well, one of probably the best ways to get started, even if you need to revitalize your blog, breathe new life into it, or you want to start a blog, we've put together a free 7-day challenge. It's called the Launch Your Blog Challenge. And it's not just while it has the technical parts of how you can actually set up a blog, it's more or less the first several days is more about strategy. Like, how do you determine exactly who your audience is? How do you make this blog something that matters, that attracts people, that you can build influence with? And so it's a 7-day challenge. When you sign up, every day you get a short video, and it gives you a challenge for that particular day. And as you move through it, when you get done with those 7 days, you'll know who your audience is, you'll know what you need to be blogging about and how to do it, and you'll have your blog set up along with your branding. So you can check it out at bloggingyourpassion.com/start. It's bloggingyourpassion.com/start.
Super cool. That is definitely a link I'll be sharing. Well, that is about our time. I thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experiences, being vulnerable, sharing your challenges that you've had as well. You're a great guy. I appreciate your heart, your spirit, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future as we continue to climb as rockstar professionals. Thank you,
Awesome.
Johnathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Words? All right. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.